Good Sunday morning, probably afternoon by the time you guys see this, we're pushing up against noon. And welcome to another episode of the Barking Brown Show. I'm Jacob, Mr. Casey Kinnaman, Nick Carnes down below. Brought to you by our friends over at SeatGeek. It's summertime, boys. So concerts, baseball games, leisure activities, fucking SummerSlam coming up in Cleveland. Go get your tickets for that over at SeatGeek with our friends. Use our code BarkingBrowns, all one word. Get $20 off your first purchase at SeatGeek and make some really fun memories with some family members. Gentlemen, how we doing?
Doing great, man. I got a little adventure planned after the show today. I'm going to go to the South Carolina State Museum.
Ooh.
And there's a planetarium there, so I'm looking forward to that.
That sounds fun.
I'm just watching the Guardians win, man. First place. I may or may not have bet on them to win the division preseason, so feeling good about that. And life is good. Life is good.
We got some Browns prop bets to talk about here in just a second. I was doing an article for Browns Wire. I was looking over some of the prop bets, and so I don't know if maybe I'm just a little homerish. Some of them seem a little disrespectful, but we'll get to that in just a second. We appreciate all of you guys for tuning in with us once again. If you're on the YouTube, please subscribe to the channel. Give us a thumbs up. If you're not on the YouTube and you're watching like in an article or something like that, or you're watching anywhere, if you look in the bottom right corner, there is a water. It's not on Twitter or Facebook, but anywhere else, you'll see a little in the bottom right, our logo. Click on that, subscribe to the channel, especially if you're watching it embedded in like a Browns Wire article. Maybe that's where you're watching it. Click on that button. Give us those props. All right, let's talk about prop bets. So I was going through some of these things some preseason prop bets, mostly over unders. These numbers are from our friends at BetMGM. So there's some other props that I'll go over as well. Them are from a different source, but I think I'm going to go over these. These might kind of. So I'm going to start with comeback player of the year. So comeback player of the year, the Browns have two preseason candidates in the comeback player of the year. Here's an interesting. I found this very, very interesting. So Deshaun Watson checks in at 6th. So preseason's odds makers have Watson with the 6th best odds to win AP comeback player of the year. I find that very interesting because of all of the negative stuff that surrounds him off the field and his struggles on the field when he's been on there. But, it's kind of the perception of him. And I understand it. I get it. I've talked about it a million times. I kind of wish we didn't have to have this conversation all the time, but we do. So surrounding all of that stuff, it kind of fascinates me because, odds makers are not going to put things out like this if they don't think it could come to fruition. Like, they're not going to be like, I'm going to put him on this list if they think there's no chance that he ever wins it. And for him to be borderline top 5, I just found that really fascinating. So he's 6th for 6th best odds at plus 2,000. Some thoughts on that.
It's the position that he plays. It's unavoidable. They could, no matter if you don't like him, he plays a position that if he plays well, it'll be a headline, So also, I don't know how many people are going to put money on that just because they won't feel good about where their money's going. But plus 2,000 odds for a guy he should be in prime position to lead a team to the playoffs, coming back off injury. Like, I don't think it's a bad bet at all.
It fits the new criteria, right? Because specifically they want guys that are coming back from injury and that type of thing.
Not from the couch.
Right. Not from the couch. It would be highly ironic to see a Browns quarterback win comeback player of the year 2 years in a row. That would be certainly something. But I do think the fact that the odds aren't longer is probably paying respect to just the talent that surrounds Deshaun. I think the Browns have set him up for success more than any other team that he's had around him previously. So honestly, I'm surprised the odds aren't a little longer. Like, I could see him being in the top 10, but maybe a little lower. And so maybe that's just them telling us that they do think there's because if the odds are that high, there's got to be at least some reasonable shot that it could happen. And so in general, that's surprising to me, and I'm also encouraged by it.
Number 5, 5th best odds, to win comeback player of the year belong to Nick Chubb. Plus 1,200 for him. So kind of a big jump from 5.
I was about to say that's a huge jump from 5 to 6.
Yeah, it's like they like the top 5 people, and then after that, they're just putting names on there maybe because it's like a plus 800 to get to Deshaun Watson at number 6. So plus 1,200. I like the bet if I knew when he would play. Because, well, although I will say it's not like MVP where you got to play the entire season. So if he came and played 12 really good games or so, I could see it, especially depending on what the rest of the field looks like.
Flacco played 6.
Oh, shit.
I think.
Well, I didn't even think. Yeah, I didn't even think about that aspect of it because that's what when I was looking at it, I was like, but will he play enough to win that award? Like, will he? When will he play? And then you mentioned the Flacco thing, and I'm like, oh my god, how did I forget about that? I don't think. Maybe you throw some money on that. I don't.
See, I keep flip flopping. I am like this week. I'm choosing to be wildly optimistic about the Nick Chubb's going to be ready to go, and he's just going to be Nick Chubb. We're going to be like, why are we overthinking this? He's Nick Chubb. But then some weeks I'm like, okay, physically I know he'll get himself ready, but the team might slow play it, just ease him in. But if he's Nick Chubb and he's truly Nick Chubb, like that might get thrown out the window. You can never feel bad about putting money on Nick Chubb. I'll say that.
Like it feels like one of those bets where you just like throw a 5 or a 10 on there and then you just let it sit and you're just like, all right, let's see what happens.
There's definitely. I don't know if this is just the Homer stuff or a Cleveland perspective, but there definitely seems to be building momentum that Nick could be back sooner than initially thought, and so I feel like that. Yeah, I feel like that plays a factor. If Nick, I'll say this: if Nick can play, let's say 12 games, so that's missing the first 5. Yeah. I think he'd have as good a shot as anybody at winning comeback player of the year because at that point, then you're saying that he's not missing half the year and you're really looking at it and saying, okay, generally when guys are coming back from these knee injuries, it takes them a little bit to get acclimated and to really hit their stride. And so if you're coming back in the earlier-ish part of the season, by the time we hit November, December, you're probably talking about hitting your stride. And if Nick Chubb's out there, I just listened to the Browns Steelers breakdown on Browns Film Breakdown, and they were talking about how Nick was averaging over 6 yards a carry against the Steelers, and I was just thinking about that, just how explosive he was the last time we saw him. And man, I expect him to hit his stride. I'm not sure exactly when, but I expect him to hit his stride.
If he can play 8 games at 100%, I feel like he wins it.
He also has the added benefit that the exact opposite of Deshaun Watson. Nick's beloved across the league. He's not just someone just in Brown. Like everyone, no one talks negative of Nick Chubb.
No.
Even after he destroys your team, it's like he doesn't spike the ball. He doesn't, you know what I mean? Like he's just beloved. So I just think that there's the discrepancy. 1,200 versus 2,000. There's more likely people are going to put their money on that because they feel good about the man that Nick Chubb is.
All right, so let's get into some over/under prop bets here.
Hold on, do you know who the number 1 person is? The best odds?
I don't have it in front of me.
I was just racking my brain while we were going over this.
Let me see.
If we got 5 and 6, who would be the top rated?
It's funny because when I was looking at this stuff and throwing it together, I was like just counting. I was like, okay, so he has the 1, 2. Because, interestingly enough, Watson's 21st in odds to win the MVP.
Mm-hmm.
Myles Garrett is 33rd.
Is he the highest rated defensive player?
I don't remember. I can see it in just a second. Oh, you know who number 1 is. I will say this. The 4 people ahead of Nick Chubb in comeback player of the year odds are all quarterbacks.
Okay. Yep. I'm looking at it now.
Come on, Casey. You can do this.
No, dude. My math wasn't mathing.
You don't know what the 4 ahead of them?
Okay. All 4 quarterbacks had season-ending injuries.
Yeah. Nick Chubb's the first non-quarterback on that list. And then after Nick Chubb, it goes quarterback, 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 quarterback.
Right. So is Aaron Rodgers the number one?
He is.
Correct. That's correct.
Okay.
I'm going to be really embarrassed if you don't get number 2.
Number 2 is pretty close.
Joey B?
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah. Okay.
Number 3, there's a lot of controversy about what happened in the draft.
His team paid him and then did some weird stuff.
Kirk Cousins?
Kirk Cousins.
It is Kirk Cousins.
Really? Kirko, third?
And then number 4 only played a couple of games, but a lot of people say he's top 10.
Yeah, Anthony Richardson's not top 10, bro.
Yeah.
I'm not having that discourse. I'm just after silly season, but I'm not that silly.
It's funny because it's like I said, 4 quarterbacks, Nick Chubb, and then it's Watson, Daniel Jones, Herbert, and Kyler Murray.
So everyone on that list is a quarterback except for Nicholas Chubb.
There's a few more after that, but on the top 10. What is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
You just named 10.
Did I?
Let's see.
And then it's Sam Darnold, J.K. Dobbins, Tank Dell, Justin Fields.
T.J. Watt's down there.
Sam Darnold wasn't hurt last year. How's that apply to him?
Yeah, because he came back from sucking. That's what I think.
I think under the new rules, Darnold cannot.
I'd probably get him removed.
Sorry, I didn't mean to derail the show there. I was just curious.
No, it was
good, better odds.
So basically, it's like there's one running back. Well, J.K. Dobbins is way down the list. There's one running back in the top 10. And
it's just all quarterbacks that got hurt or didn't play.
And Tank Dell.
And Tank Dell.
Yeah, that's where we're at.
All right, over-unders. I'm going to start with Deshaun Watson. These are your over-unders on passing yards and touchdowns. Mm-hmm. Passing yards over-under is currently set at 3,350.5. Passing touchdowns over-under 18.5. So we over or under on these 2 bets.
Over. I think you get to 38 pretty comfortably. As long as, obviously this is all predicated on the fact that he plays the breadth of a season and starts at least 16 of the 17 games.
Yeah, if he can do that, 3,350, even the way he's played kind of some of the highs and lows that he's had so far this year, I think 3,350 is not very many. 18 touchdowns, not very many. I mean, you're looking at like some of those offenses that like Baker Mayfield's worst year as a starter. Not maybe, but the Freddie Kitchens year, he still threw over 20 touchdowns.
Yeah.
And that offense was an absolute mess, and he still was over on both of those numbers.
He had 2,000-yard receivers, yeah.
Yeah, so I think Watson over 3,350 and over 18.5. I think those are pretty safe bets.
Just some basic math. If Deshaun's throwing over 3,350 in 17 games, you're asking him to throw 198 yards a game.
Yeah, dog.
You're asking him just to throw 200 yards a game for how many games?
If he plays 17. So let's factor in that Deshaun misses 2 games, right?
Say 2.
How about that? You're asking him to throw 225 a game.
Wow.
225.
Yeah.
But it's all about the health. That's one, like, if you're going to do those, I would not parlay it with anything else. Like, because like some of these other over-unders, I think I'm going to parlay. But because of the health concerns, just because we just don't know what his shoulder is going to look like. We've not seen this in a quarterback, and that's the problem. Because of that, I wouldn't parlay these with others, but if you're wanting to put money, I would still put money on the overs on both of them, as long as you're optimistic. Over 3,000. We got some chimes in. Josh is checking in. What's up?
The 18 touchdowns, man, is
he'd have to throw 19.
Okay, so before Cleveland, you're looking at 33, 26, 26, and as a rookie, which I believe he got hurt pretty early on.
He only played like 4 games.
Right, and threw 19 touchdowns as a rookie.
Yeah.
So
that's insulting to me. 18 is insulting.
That's flat.
Yeah, I mean, like Brownie said, like it's not. If he throws 2 touchdowns a game, he gets there, and like,
it's not even.
If he throws 2 touchdowns a game and plays in 15 games, that's 30.
Right.
And obviously there might be a game where he throws 1, but there's also probably a game where he throws 3 or 4 and kind of gets up above those numbers. So
he's already done that as a Brown. He's had a couple games.
The over-under on wins, like a lot of people are still at like the 8.5, 9.5, which is kind of crazy. But I'm looking at these things, and for all the things that have been said about like how good this roster is, I don't know. These over-unders seem like you're still paying the Browns tax of the name Cleveland Browns. Like that's what it.
Yeah.
And I feel like this isn't the time for us to make a lot of money off of this shit. That's all I'm saying. Getting turnovers that turn into easy fields for Watson. Yeah.
Well, I'll say I know I might be getting a little ahead of myself in these prop bets here, but last year Amari Cooper's prop bet, assuming Deshaun was going to be healthy, was 925 yards for the season.
It's not much better.
I hit that in Houston, which was on Christmas Eve, and Amari didn't even have to play the final game. Right? I don't think he played against the Jets either, and it was like we hit that multiple weeks before the season even ended.
Well, let's talk about it. Let's talk about receiving props. You want to talk about receiving props?
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's talk about receiving props. Brownie checking in. We appreciate the kind words, man.
Thank you.
Staying up late in Japan. Oh man, that's awesome.
Coming from a long way away.
Long way away.
Props.
Okay. 3 guys on the prop bets on over-under receiving yards. We got Njoku, Judy, Cooper. Njoku's over-under is 715.5. Jerry Judy, 725.5.
That one's close.
Amari Cooper, 950.5. So a little bit higher than they were last year. Coming off a 1,200-yard season, they still say he doesn't get 1,000 yards. I would throw so much money at that Amari Cooper.
Yeah, getting 1,000.
I probably will.
It's still under 1,000.
Yeah, it's 950.5.
Coming off. So it moved. So Amari had
25 yards.
Amari had 1,250 with 4 different quarterbacks throwing him the ball, including PJ Walker and rookie Dorian Thompson-Robinson. And it moved.
And he missed like 2 games.
And didn't play the final game for rest. And it moved 25 yards.
No, he didn't play the final 2 games. He didn't play against the Jets either.
Oh yeah, you're right. Yeah.
Because he got hurt against Houston.
That just
this year.
Hello?
He will have Jameis Winston and Deshaun Watson.
Yeah.
He's getting 1,000 yards, bro.
He's getting 1,000.
Yeah, even if you think Watson,
Watson
doesn't start the whole year,
that's what I'm saying. You feel better that you don't have to evoke the PJ Walkers and hopefully DTR. But if you miss Watson for a few games and Winston steps in, Coop's eating. Just no Coop is eating in that scenario.
He's the one at 725 that I don't know. Like
that's same where I fell. I fell Njoku. Look, man, Njoku's he's going to get his 1,000 yards this year.
I think so.
This is the year he joins the conversation of All Pro. He's right at the precipice, and you've seen how he finished the year out last year. This is a trajectory. I think that this is where he's headed. Judy, I don't feel confident in knowing what he is. I felt way too confident in what I thought Elijah Moore was for me to just transfer that over to Judy because he's the next guy.
Because what happened to Elijah Moore could happen to Jerry Judy, where there could be some struggles for this passing game at times this year. And if that happens, he's not going to get – and that's what I think happened to Elijah Moore. I think Elijah Moore was fine. I think he was good.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's just like as long as the quarterback play gets where it needs to be and where I think it can be, I think you could go over. But I'm just too afraid on the Jerry Judy one. I would hit the over on Njoku. I'd hit the over on Amari Cooper. I just wouldn't touch the Jerry Judy one.
There's some people that have talked about like outside of Cleveland that I've listened to because I listen to a lot of fantasy content as well. And one of the biggest topics is how is the target prioritization beyond Amari Cooper? And there's some people that feel like Jerry Judy could be number 2. I feel very confident that it's David Njoku. I just don't see Judy being the second target in this offense. And so for the third target in the offense to have 700 yards, Deshaun would have to be like a 4,000 yard passer. I think then if Deshaun was a 4,000 yard passer, Judy could probably hit 700, but there'd have to be
I would consider 800 yards a wildly successful season. First year in a new offense with better weapons around you. You're not the focal point. You're just going to be this luxury. Injuries change everything, but if everything stays healthy, I think that would be a very successful season.
Okay. Only a couple more I've got on here because there's some of them like there's no Nick Chubb ones because they don't know about the injuries with him. So there's not a ton more prop bets that I found. I've got some receiving touchdowns and some Myles Garrett props. So receiving touchdowns again, Jerry Judy, David Njoku, Amari Cooper are the ones, on here. Jerry Jeudy over under 3.5. David Njoku over under 4.5. Amari Cooper over under 5.5. That's where we are. Yeah, I kind of so David Njoku needs 5, Jeudy needs 4, Amari needs 6. Judy's going to get opportunities. Like you said, I don't know where his target share ranks. We'll have to wait till the season starts. He's going to get opportunities based on what they gave up / the combination of what they gave up and what they paid him.
Right.
Like they're going to give him opportunities. He needs 4 touchdowns. David needs.
He's good after the catch, man. I don't even think it needs to be targets. You know, like
it doesn't have to be a hard
things.
Right. And then David Njoku, we've seen what in the past. Watson at periods in his career has really targeted tight ends in the red zone. Like we've seen it with Darren Fells. He did it with Darren Fells one year. He's done it with Jordan Akins. He likes those guys that can high point the ball. And that's what and then Amari Cooper's Amari Cooper. I don't think it's weird. I need to bring up Amari Cooper's touchdowns.
I think he had 6 last year.
Yeah.
So what did I say? 5.5. So he needs 6.
Let's see. He had
5.
He had 5 last year, but 9 the year before.
8, 5. Going backwards. So going backwards for him. 5, 9, 8, 5, 8, 7, 7, 5, 6. That's his year's productions on touchdowns. So that one's probably close. 5.5. He was under that last year. But I would take the over on Jeudy and Njoku.
6 touchdowns over the course of a season.
I would think he would have it, but
I feel the over. Notably, Amari would have hit it last year too if that referee against Tennessee didn't mysteriously call him out of bounds. He wasn't even close. Right. I still think about that. But you're looking at again 5 touchdowns in a year where there's 4 different quarterbacks and Amari doesn't play the final 2 games. I think 6 feels very attainable for Amari Cooper.
I agree.
Okay. All right. Last couple of bets here. Myles Garrett prop bets. There's 2 of them. All right.
Okay.
Yeah. To win Defensive Player of the Year, he has the second best odds at plus 700. To win, to lead the league in sacks, he's also 33rd in MVP odds for whatever reason. To lead the league in sacks, he has the 3rd best odds at plus 500. So his odds to lead the league in sacks are not that far off from his odds to win Defensive Player of the Year for the second year. Thoughts?
I feel better about the sacks than I do the DPOY 2 times in a row.
Yeah,
that seems to be something that bounces around.
This is also interesting here. So the number 1 odds for Defensive Player of the Year is Micah Parsons.
Yeah.
He's got plus 650.
Because it goes in cycles.
Oh, I'm sorry. I said that Myles had the 3rd best odds. He's actually tied for 2nd with TJ Watt.
Okay.
They both have plus 750, and Nick Bosa is behind him at plus 800. That's for Defensive Player of the Year.
Yeah.
Let me go down. What did I say? Lead the league in sacks. Let's see. So I'm trying to figure out who it was. There are so many ridiculous, like a large amount of prop bets. It's hard sometimes to find exactly what you're looking for because I didn't write down who was ahead of him in sacks. They don't have an over under for so it's Micah Parsons and TJ Watt's number 1 plus 300, Micah Parsons number 2 plus 400, then plus 500 for Myles Garrett number 3.
Well, he's never done it. He's never led the league in sacks. He's always, consistently been in double digits. And I don't know. I probably wouldn't touch either of those. I don't feel good about him winning 2 straight Defensive Player of the Years.
I don't either.
It just didn't seem likely. I mean, they want to anoint Micah Parsons. They want to. He plays for the Cowboys. He's a tremendous player. He's like the next guy up. And this dominant defensive edge position, it rotates around the league. You'll have it for a few years, and another guy, you know what I mean? It just seems to have this trajectory from where, Von Miller to, Aaron Donald was the dominant guy for a while. Miles has been the next guy to step up. And then, I think he has 16 sacks. I don't think that leads the league.
Probably not.
But the upside's there. Miles could set the record. If Miles sets the record, the award's his. But I think that's the kind of effort it would take in order for him
to get the second one.
Definitely within his range of outcomes, but I don't know that I would want to bet on either one.
Yeah, I'm not throwing money on either one of those.
If the bet was who has the highest win rate, it'd be Miles. I would take.
Oh yeah, I'd love that.
You know what I mean?
I throw, and I'm sure there's probably some obscure sports book somewhere where you can put it on there. I'm sure it's there somewhere.
I've got how about the AFC North winner?
Okay.
We've got the Ravens at plus 130, the Bengals at plus 165, the Browns at plus 500, and the Steelers at plus 750. So the Browns have the third best odds to win the AFC North. What are you thinking?
Baltimore's got a ton of movement on that offensive line, man. I don't know that they're going to be the same team out of the gate. Now, they're well coached. They have talent. I think that's who we're competing for the division with. I don't think it's Cincinnati. I think Cincinnati's got bigger problems right now than they want to admit with their quarterback.
Yeah, I'll take it.
I think it's based on the fact that they won 11 games last year and the way that they did it. And I am not as high on Cincinnati this year. I feel like that's a chance to make some money there. I like it. I think the Browns could win the division for the first time. I quote tweeted with the Browns will win the division for the first time. And I just think collectively Cleveland's being slept on. I do, because I'll tell you what, I'm looking here at just regular season wins. The Browns regular season win prop is over under 8.5, which over 8.5 is slightly favored. It's minus 135, but that's not much.
You won 11 games with the highest amount of salary cap on the IR.
Yeah.
And you're returning like 23 of 24 starters.
Which and you've got your regime extended, you've got stability. I just feel like the Browns are going to win over 8.5 games. I like that's basically saying, are the Browns going to have a winning season or a losing season? That's all it's asking.
Exactly what that is. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
9 wins.
Yeah, but I think that's what needs to happen for this to finally stop paying the Cleveland taxes, to give respect, back-to-back playoff appearances, double-digit wins. That kind of stuff goes a long way. The fact that they just did it last year, if they don't do it this year, then the following year they get to say that same thing. Oh, that cycle just repeats itself. So you got to stack these back-to-back to kind of gain ground on the national perception, which I could give a shit about national perception, because you can make money off of it when people are lower on you. Mm-hmm. But to me, it's like I just look at the circumstances in which they won their 11 games, everyone that they were missing, the fact that they return everyone. Are they going to be hit the injury bug the same way in back-to-back years? It's not impossible. It could happen, but it's not likely.
I got 12 this year right now.
12. I certainly think the Browns could win 12 games. I certainly do. I get it, right? It's hard to win in the NFL, and there's a lot of things that can happen, but like you have to acknowledge it's within the Browns. Within the Browns' capabilities. And so that being said, they have a prop for the most regular season wins. The Browns check in at let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4.
Now you're doing the counting that I did the other night. I'm like, fuck. Come on.
Right. It's a long list. They're right around, I don't want to bore you guys with counting, but they're right around like 15 at plus 4,000 to have the most regular season wins. Kind of feels like that
feels like a throw $5 on there and just see what happens.
Yeah, see what happens. I think that could be fun. I don't know. They have just for reference, top 5 is Kansas City, San Francisco, Baltimore, Cincinnati, and Detroit. That's your top 5.
A lot of misplaced faith in Cincinnati, man.
There's a lot of misplaced faith in the Jets.
Yeah, that's a high variance outcome as well.
That's the one that really gets me. All right, guys, let's talk about defensive tackle.
Let's go.
Let's get to defensive tackle. We're almost done with this position review series, and for everybody that's stuck around, we really appreciate it. Been juggling trying to get guests for our other series, but we will talk about the Commanders coming up on Tuesday, and then hopefully pivoting to the Eagles the week after that. But trying to work on some of these things. We got some other great things planned for you, some things we're going to stumble across down the road. So defensive tackle, I'll go from the top and just list who is on the roster at the position. And then I'll go around the horn, starting with you, Casey, just an overview of what you think about the room, and then we can get into some specifics. But Dalvin Tomlinson and Shelby Harris, the stalwart veterans, both of them were well worth every penny they were paid last year. I think Harris was worth more. Tomlinson got that big contract, and some people were like, he's not a 3-down guy. And then he showed you that that's a lie. He's a 3. He can rush the passer, and he can stuff the run, and he was worth every penny. Quentin Jefferson, the newcomer in terms of free agency, love that a ton. We'll get into that in a second. Mike Hall Jr., the second-round pick. Siaki Ika, last year, one of last year's third-round picks. Maurice Hurst, kind of the incumbent that is really going to have to fight for his roster spot. It sucks because he deserves it, but that's where this roster's at, which is awesome. And then you've got Jawan Briggs, the 7th-round pick, and then another free agent they picked up in Chris Williams. So just some off the top for you, Casey, some overall thoughts on this group this year.
The first word that comes to my head is unrecognizable. If you look at what we had in 21 and 22, and we were just like, do they even care about this position?
Right.
And, it led to, I think, JOK to be a year further in his development had he had this kind of defensive line in front of him from the time that he got in Cleveland. But just some people evaluate it differently. They'll just look just at the starters. And, if you're just looking at the starters and you're looking at Tomlinson and Shelby Harris, you got to feel good about that. But for me, it's the 5-man rotation. For me, it's, you got Tomlinson, you got Harris, you got Quentin Jefferson, Mo Hurst, and Mike Hall. That's impressive, man. That is a strong defensive tackle rotation. And every person I just named gets after quarterbacks. Like, this is, from a pass rush perspective, this is the deepest defensive tackle room in the NFL.
Yeah, we really, it's really different.
Deepest defensive tackle room in the NFL.
Pass rush. Yeah.
Pass rush.
Sorry. Deepest. Wow.
I believe that.
Wow.
Show me that team has 5 other players that can put that kind of win rate on teams. I don't think you'll see it.
That's such a far cry from where we started. What you mentioned, Casey, and it's just it's so exciting to think about, because I just feel like the Browns have been mostly generating that pass rush with the defensive ends for the majority of Myles Garrett's tenure in Cleveland, honestly. Yeah. And
all of it but 1 year, probably.
Right. Yeah, Larry O was probably the only other guy that I would say gave you consistent pass rush ability. Sheldon a little bit, but that's years and years ago now.
Right. Like you had a fun little year from Malik McDowell and Malik Jackson. And that was probably about as good as it got. So to be here, to arrive here now, and especially to see the front office acknowledge that hey, we got to fix this, and have done so, right, is really encouraging. I don't know how if you're in a position where you're cutting Mo Hurst based on what he gave you last year, and I hope Mo Hurst doesn't get cut, but if you're in that position, it's like that's just a full acknowledgement of riches at the defensive tackle position. It's just a new place to be, and I can't wait to see how it shakes out. To draft Michael Hall in the 2nd round, and to basically say, "Hey, man, like we just need a contribution from you," is such a far cry from all of this. So I can't wait to see it. I really think that the Browns are going to be able to generate pressure with just 4. And that's going to be such an incredible asset this season, because that they've bolstered the defensive tackle room so much.
It's I think about it sometimes in terms of like the flyers. They always take flyers, right? There's always a guy out there that's just not lived up to what he was supposed to be. Rather that's injury, scheme, work ethic, whatever it was.
Trouble with
Mo
the
Hurst
wall,
was that.
McDowell.
Yeah,
It came in all forms.
And then Mo Hurst last year, it was all about like Mo Hurst when he's healthy, especially like if you look at like rookie Mo Hurst with the Raiders was a menace. Like he got after quarterbacks like an insane clip from the interior, and they hit on it last year. They hit on that lottery ticket. Had to bring him back. Like you had to bring him back, whether he makes the roster or not. That's up in the air because of you drafted 2 guys.
Maybe you could trade one.
You could. I mean, you did it last year. Like people are talking about this at quarterback, and I think it could happen because people are like, well, will they just trade Tyler Huntley like they did Josh Dobbs? And it's like, I mean, if there's a market for it, because right. I don't think Huntley makes the roster over DTR. So if he's going to go to the practice squad and someone offers you a 6th round pick, and 6th round picks have turned into things like Zadarius Smith, Amari Cooper, and Jerry Jeudy. Let's keep that in mind. Yep. So that's why those late picks matter, because Andrew Berry's used those late picks to go acquire more established players. And I understand that Jerry Jeudy, it's not as established as like the Amari Cooper and Zadarius Smith trades, but we've seen Jerry Jeudy almost be 1,000-yard receiver. He had over 900 yards in 1 year. So we've seen him do some sort of production in the NFL, which kind of changes it. But
it's hard to imagine getting as much value out of a 7th round pick as the Browns did with Dustin Hopkins last year. How many game winners did he kick for them? And all it took was a 7th round pick.
I mean, he set a record. He set a record for consecutive games with a made 50-yard field goal last year.
Right.
I mean,
for a 7th
round pick. So like, I think that's interesting because, when we keep going back to it, we keep going back to the fact that it's like a couple of years ago, this room was dog shit. And now this year we're talking about being upset because they're going to cut somebody that shouldn't be. Right. Like you're going to cut either. Now I'm not a big Siaki Ika fan, but I see the allure of trying to develop him as a run stuffer. You're either going to have to cut a 3rd round pick from last year in Siaki Ika, or cut Mo Hurst, who is a really productive pass rusher, as a rotational piece. He's not 10 sacks or whatever, but he's 4 or 5 sacks and 30 pressures, as a rotational piece. You're going to have to cut one of those guys, and you're going to probably have to cut Jawan Briggs, who was a draft pick this year as well. You're going to have to cut draft picks, potentially multiple, at the same position, because you got too many of them, damn it. And like, that's just insane. Now, there are some questions about the depth of run stuffing tackles, because I like what Shelby Harris and Dalvin Tomlinson do at the top, stuffing the run. But after that, it's mostly pass rushers outside of Siaki Ika. I'm with you, Casey. They have leaned so hard into the strength this year. They went and said, you know what? We were okay against the run. They were okay against the run. Now, one thing is, if this offense can build leads and other offenses don't get to run the ball, then they're fucked. Because that's what I think about this defensive line. Because they were like, let's go out and make sure that we got like 10 dudes that can pressure the quarterback inside and outside. Because Tom, you upgraded. Jordan Elliott was more of a pass rushing situational guy. Yep. And you basically traded him for Quentin Jefferson, who has accomplished far more in the league as a pass rusher at the position and has seen a ton of football. So you were like, okay, bing, upgrade, right? And that could force Mo Hurst off the roster. And Mo Hurst is going to get forced off. If he gets forced off the roster, it's because of Mike Hall. But then you went and got Mike Hall, who, if you watch this dude at his size, you should not move like that. You should not move it like that. So your top 4, and even going into the 5 with Mo Hurst, they can get after the quarterback at a ridiculous clip. I don't think Quentin Jefferson is the worst at stuffing the run, but he's not great. Mike Hall, I think Mike Hall has the physical traits to be a good all-around 3-down guy, but he's not there yet. Now, could he be this year by the time he plays? Sure. Shelby and Dalvin, they're 3-down guys. They can stuff the run. I think Shelby Harris is even a better run stuffer than he is pass rusher, and at times so is Dalvin. So like they can really get it. But depth outside of Ika, I don't know about that. But if this offense can be better, and opposing offenses are forced to throw the ball, this defensive tackle room, they're menaces against the quarterbacks.
One thing needs to be talked about though is you also have 2 defensive ends who kick down and play defensive tackle.
Right.
Yeah.
So you guys, Zadarius and Alex Wright, I just think that you're never going to run out of pass rushing help in the interior the way this thing's set up.
If this team gets some real opportunities to pin their ears back and rush the quarterback in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, if they got a 10-point lead going in the fourth quarter of games, man, it's
good luck.
Yeah.
Good luck.
That's the dream scenario. But I wanna touch back on the run defense that you mentioned, and Siaki Ika is kind of this guy where it's like you need a third defensive tackle that's going to help you against the run. I think we can acknowledge that based on the skill sets of everybody else.
You need a depth run stuffer, yes.
Right. So is it now? I get it. You draft Siaki Ika in the 3rd round. You drafted Jawan Briggs in the 7th round. But is it the craziest thing in the world? Like if Jawan Briggs just comes into camp and is in the preseason and is stuffing the run, is it the craziest thing to think that there's a chance? Like, could Briggs make the roster over Ika? I guess is what I'm asking.
Okay, here's where I come down on it. And this is only because of the rumors coming out of Berea that they're trying to change their front to where they use more of a one shade.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I don't know if Briggs can live there as a run stuffer. I think as a 3-tech, he could be a run stuffer. But and when I look at the roster, I don't know who outside of Dalvin Tomlinson is physically equipped to kick down inside and play serious snaps. Shelby's done it early in his career with Denver. It's been a while since he's spent any time in. I think he had 6 snaps there last year. Okay. If they're really making an uptick there, it almost lends itself to Ika just because he weighs 335 pounds.
Yep.
Okay.
He's the only one with the build to do it. That's not named Dalvin Tomlinson.
That doesn't mean he can do it.
Right.
But he's the only one with the prerequisite size to occupy space between a guard and a center and live in that zone. So that just where my mind goes. Briggs is explosive. I like what he does. I think he's a prime candidate. Try to sneak him on the practice squad.
He's definitely the guy that where like they could cut him, keep Ika. Let's say they do that, and if Ika struggles, they may call Briggs up to be that guy a couple of games in the season, and eventually they could bring him up full time. But if they, I just. As much as I don't like Siaki Ika overall, I just wasn't a fan of his tape, and then he was just not very good last year. They drafted him in the 3rd round last year, and we just have not seen them move on from a premium pick after 1 year. Like,
that's true.
I mean, have they moved on? I mean, Jordan Elliott and Jacob.
Well, we Cade York, but I think that's different because there was no hiding Cade York's flaws.
But that's still a day 3
pick. We don't know what Siaka can do because we don't see him on the field.
Yeah, but that's still a day 3 pick. I'm talking about day 2 picks, like higher picks. And
Anthony
now Jacob
Schwartz is probably the best example.
Anthony Schwartz, they've moved on from. Jacob Phillips and Jordan Elliott were 3rd round picks. They're gone. And that was more of like they just let their contracts expire. And Phillips, of course, had a lot of injuries and some things like that hurt him too. But, you know, even Anthony Schwartz got more than 1 year.
Yeah, too.
Like, and he was bad. Like, he was bad. Now, he had some moments, but it was bad. And so I have a hard time, as much as I would move on from him because I wouldn't have picked him in the first place. There are some stuff in his tape a couple of years ago where you go, okay, I can see why you would draft this guy. Mm-hmm. He just regressed in his final season at Baylor and then just wasn't very good last year. But questioning the depth of run stuffers, and that's where it is.
Well, what worries me about Ika is the regression was a lot of people pointed to the fact they asked him to be a 2-gapper that last year at Baylor. Yeah. And Schwartz was like, nope, we want you to be a 1-gapper. Don't be a dump truck, be a Ferrari. And then now you need a 2-gapper if that's what you're planning on doing.
And you're potentially, we switched him here and put him there. Now we're going to make him a 2-gapper, which is when he was really bad in college. And then you're just like.
I think the ideal scenario is Ika comes back into camp with his body transformed. You know, you've had a year in the NFL, you've had a year in this training program and that type of thing. Mm-hmm. And then he just, because you're not
he's got power.
Yeah. And let's be clear, you're talking about depth run stuffer. So we're not looking for otherworldly contribution here. We're just saying, hey, you got to be an NFL caliber a depth piece here. right? So that bar isn't exactly in the sky. So I do think it's possible. I don't know. We've seen a couple of pictures. It looked like Ika might be a little smaller than he was the previous year. I'm hoping that ends up being the case because I have no questions about pass rush. I think that we were all on the same page here with how we introduced this defensive line. So really, then, if your biggest problem is depth rush defense, you're probably in a pretty good spot.
We're probably okay. Like, you're probably okay. And I just want to say that here on Sunday, we're 15 days, but if you're watching this tomorrow on a Monday, 2 weeks. Rookies report in 2 weeks.
Oh, baby.
Just around the corner. And if you're keeping track, we're like a week away from NCAA if you pre-order it and get the 3-day early access. So NCAA 25. Keep an eye out on my other Twitch channel, which is 69.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah. Be doing some streaming over there in an online dynasty league. There's like 30 of us. It's insane. So gotta be keeping that up.
Just as we get into the final thoughts here, I want to say there's 382 of you watching on Twitter. It would mean the world to us if you would click that subscribe button on YouTube. You're already on our Twitter page. The link's right there. You really help it. We're growing slowly but surely, but we would love to keep going up. You guys have given us your time. Please click that subscribe button. It means a lot.
Yeah, don't forget about SeatGeek. If you're trying to get some tickets to a concert, some games, all that stuff, go over to SeatGeek, make your account. Promo code Barking Browns, get $20 off that purchase.
Before we go, I just want to point out, I love that these are the problems we're talking about.
Yeah.
I love the problems we're talking about. Because we've been in other situations where we had actual problems.
Who's going to be the third wide receiver? Maybe this UDFA.
Yeah. And 2 years ago, who's going to be the starting defensive tackle? Didn't he have the starter in place? You had a guy who was going to start games, but is he really a starting caliber player in the NFL? Probably not. Now we're to the point where, like, man, who's this fifth defensive tackle going to be?
Like, are they going to be? They're going to. I feel they're forced to keep 5 this year. Like, I think they're going to get forced to because they just can't cut all of that talent.
Yeah. These are great problems to have, gentlemen.
I was watching a conversation about Mohamed Massaquoi and Rabisky. I don't remember his first name anymore.
Ryan? Terry? Which
Terry.
one?
I couldn't remember which one. And what a duo that was.
Brian, sorry.
Brian was the player. Terry was his dad, the coach.
Okay, that makes sense. And so to think about coming from there to here when we're just talking about, 900-yard prop bet here, 700-yard prop bet there, all this, that's really exciting. Last prop bet, just to get us out of here real quick. To make the play, I had this open already. To make the playoffs, right? The Cleveland Browns are yes plus 130, no minus 170. Are your Cleveland Browns going to the playoffs?
Get that free money, people. Get that free money.
Free money.
Free money. See you in the playoffs. This has been a Barking Browns prop bet defensive tackle sexy pass rush review. I'm Nick. He's Jacob. That's Casey. Go Browns.
Go Browns. I think.
Maybe.